Hello, one and all. Welcome to Wednesday stream. Oh wow. Made very weak tea for today. Oh. How is everyone? Hopefully good. I got a bunch of new followers on Twitter and also on Twitch, which means that there is a new goal. Maybe at some point I'll get it to 200. I also have a bunch of VODs that I have to publish. I don't want to publish like a bunch of them in one go because it'd be overwhelming and saturating the entire thing, but you can expect them to appear pretty soon. Ooh. But yeah, ended up making a couple of tweets about Amberol that got picked up in a couple of places, and that ended up yeah, with very interesting feedback. The best feedback I got was Audacious in Winamp compatibility mode is more efficient in using the space because not everyone has a 4K display. And that is absolutely true. Not everyone has a 4K display. For instance, I don't. I have two 1080p displays. One of them is relatively good, but well, both of them are pretty good, but one is a higher refresh rate. But I mean, I think the main problem is that people expect for simple players, like simple applications and stuff, to be as efficient as possible in terms of spacing and controls on screen. And I don't think they ever I don't think they use GNOME. GNOME, like the design tenets in GNOME are white space is good, and you don't need to like shove as many pixels on screen as possible, you know? But a lot of people still think that a pixel on screen has to be lit up, and if it has to be lit up, it has to be addressable by your mouse or your touchpad. Well, no, not by your touchpad, because touchpads are touch, so no, they're absolutely wrong, and only pointers are allowed. Which is a very nerdy thing to say. I mean, yeah, it's for nerds. I used to think that as well when I was 16. Then I started wearing glasses all day. And I suddenly realized how good it is not to have everything like scrunched together. You can actually see where one control ends and the other begins. Huh. But yeah, I got a little bit of free publicity for Amberol. I honestly haven't seen the download stats. Let me see. That's changed. Yeah, it doesn't change that much. Still, 3,000 downloads. It's pretty good. in 6 days. I'm impressed that there are like 3,000 people that are actually, and they are A, using Linux, B, using FlatHub, C, willing to try out a media player that is alpha quality and works by loading up, works like Winamp. So I'm positively shocked that there are that many people willing to do that. Still is pretty good. I'm pleased with the feedback, to be honest. Outside of the like random stuff, I'm pleased with the feedback. And I'm going to see what happens when I land the main next branch, which, well, it's basically the little sneak peek that I posted on Twitter and on Mastodon. So but more importantly, I made a tweet about the fact that I am actually enjoying writing application code for a change, and that one made the numbers, as they say, for my Twitter account at the very least. It ended up on Reddit and in a couple of places. So the end result was that I started getting an influx of notifications from random people retweeting and liking the tweet. I'll have to mute it though. It's way too much now. Yeah, hopefully the feedback from the changes that I'm planning to land is going to be as good. I think I found, after last stream on Monday, when I figured out how to use leaflets and, well, no, sorry, flaps, and rearrange the UI in a way that is more mobile friendly while remaining good to use on a desktop. I think I found a nice equilibrium between the two use cases. Now all I have to do is add an email client, and then the application will be complete. Yeah, I've been doing a bunch of work there, to be honest with you. After the little like sneak peek that I posted on Twitter, it's there is a little bit more work there that happened in the background. With a bunch of bug fixes here and there. Let me see. Right. So I want to show probably the kludgiest kludge I could ever come up with. So, okay, we start with the usual like landing page, the initial state, the initial page for Amberol, and we choose a folder. We choose the simple one. We add it. Okay, so the playing next here is a hack. Is the kludgiest kludge. So this is a list view, right? So every row is bound to a song inside the model that holds all the songs inside the playlist. In order to implement this, you basically have to go through, let me find you exact place. So we create the list view here and we create a factory, and the factory is responsible for taking the each element in the model and binding it to a row widget inside the actual list view widget. And it's fairly efficient. I mean, it's a recycler view like in Android, but it's fairly efficient. It's one of the newest feature in GTK4. So the end result is that we set up every single item inside the list view to have a child, which is the queue row, and then we bind properties from the objects in the model to the widgets inside the inside row itself. So we already know if a song is playing, right? So we have a playing property on the song, and we have a playing property on the row widget itself. So every time a song is playing, we update the row inside the model, inside the view. So I used to use that to display a little icon next to the name of the song, just like Muin did. But that's kind of pointless because we already know which song is currently playing, right? It's here. It's pretty big. It's hard to miss. And we know the position inside the list view that we are because we jump to always the next row. So I took a page from the UI inside the iOS music player, which displays you if you go inside the playlist view, it will show you what was playing before now and what will be playing after the current song using a playing next header. The problem is list view doesn't have headers, doesn't have subsections. It's a feature that will come in a future version of GTK4, but currently it doesn't have it. It only displays like rows, pure and simple rows bound to the model. So what we do is we take the playing Boolean property and we say, okay, if it's the song, the row is currently bound to a song that is playing, then instead of showing it, we show the header title, playing next. So whenever we switch to the next song, we show playing next. It is probably the most hilarious thing I've ever written. Honestly, it's a kludge, but it's so funny that it works this well. And even if it like playing next doesn't display anything at the end, it's fine because that's exactly what the iOS music player does. So it's not completely wrong. But yeah, this is, of all the kludges that this code base contains, and there are many, but there are kludges. This one is probably the kludgiest, and I love it. I honestly love it. It's so hilarious. But yeah, there are a couple of other changes here and there, like styling, mostly styling changes. And then I had to make a change in the core logic, which I promised myself not to do. But, so, where are you? Some here. So instead of loading, okay, so when we create a song object that represents an actual music track, a song file, we extract the metadata, which doesn't take long, and then we extract the cover art, and then we took the cover art and we map it to well, we use GDK texture directly. GDK texture in GTK4 allows you to load pings and JPEGs and TIFF directly from file or from a bytes buffer, and it's pretty fast. I measured it at like 2 milliseconds for the average like song cover art that is embedded inside metadata. That's absolutely fine, but then we have to take that GDK texture and then pass it to the code that extracts the color palette so we can recolor the window. And I used to do that by downloading the memory, which is essentially a mem copy, or yeah, it's basically a mem copy. It's taking the bytes buffer, the decoded bytes buffer inside the GDK texture and then just giving it to you. Since the GDK texture is loaded from an asset on disk, well, yeah, it's basically from disk. In this case, it's from memory, but same thing. Since it's loading that, then the memory is still in system memory. Doesn't get moved to the GPU. If it were any other form of texture, then it would literally be it would require downloading the pixel buffer straight from the GPU, which is a very expensive operation. But in this case, we know where the texture is coming from, and we are downloading it immediately after the creation of the immutable texture object. So we're just taking that, and then we are passing it to the load palette function here. But then I had to deal with the fact that the MPRIS specification is not good. So the MPRIS specification is just the thing that displays the media controls here in the shell. And the little cover art here is not a bunch of bytes sent over dbus like the rest of the information here, the metadata here. It is actually a URL because of reasons. So in this case, I don't think it's yeah, I don't know if this happens automatically, but what happens here is I'm currently listening on Spotify on my web browser. So the web browser is updating the information here, which means it's caching this image here and then on disk and then sending a local URL. Because the other option is to literally send an HTTP, an hyperlink, an HTTP URL to the shell and have the shell download it, which is quite frankly terrifying to me. And I hope it doesn't happen. But if it doesn't happen, if it does happen, this is what is happening. The MPRIS implementation inside Firefox is sending a URL to the shell, and the shell is downloading it and displaying it. Again, terrifying. So in order to do that myself, I have to take the bytes buffer inside the cover art. So inside, I have the metadata. The metadata embeds a JPEG or a PNG file. I have to take that, decode it in order to display it on the screen, and then also do the palette extraction. But I also have to save it somewhere so that when I contact the MPRIS service, in this case GNOME shell, I can say, hey, go to this place here, there is the cover art that you can load. It is as awful as you think it is, honestly. So what I decided to do is, first of all, we are not going to use GDK texture to load the texture, load the pixel data anymore. We use GDK pixbuff, which again, fine. It's not going to be as fast because we are going through a couple of layers of indirection using GDK pixbuff. GDK texture inside GDK literally uses libping or libjpeg to load the texture data. In this case, GDK pixbuff does the same, but goes through a couple of layers of indirections there. So we load the texture data as a pixbuff, and we keep it there. And then we pass it to GDK texture to create the texture that we're going to display. And then we take the same pixbuff data and then we pass it to the load palette function that will poke at the bytes there directly and return the color palette. And then we do this. We compute the SHA-256 checksum of the metadata that we are interested in, so artist, title, and album. And then we store the file, the cover art in encoded form, so in as a ping file inside the cache directory. And then we leave it there. We do this asynchronously because I didn't have the heart to do it synchronously, but yeah, we do it asynchronously. So we have to create a file, and if the file is already there, because the SHA, like if you load multiple times the same song, then we don't do that. We don't save the cover art multiple times. It's a cache, it's not anything special. So we do this, we save the cover art. The cover art, we are already loading it using GDK pixbuff here. We are already loading it not at full size. We're already loading it at 256 by 256 pixels. We do this because we're not interested in large image data. We're gonna scale it down anyway. You might notice a slight increase in quality, actually. So one of the reasons why, so the cover art can be in any size. Honestly, I've seen people embed like 1600 by 1600 images inside the metadata of a music file. I've seen people scan the entirety of the CD booklet and then basically put it inside the metadata for each song in an album, which is bonkers. But yeah, people do that. So we tell GDK pixbuff, please load this at 256 by 256. Don't try to be a hero and load it as much as load it as big as possible. Which also means that in case of JPEG, for instance, we are going to discard a bunch of information and loading will be smaller. But also the resulting GDK pixbuff will be interpolated using, I think the default is linear interpolation. I maintain the fucking thing and I don't remember. I think it's linear interpolation, not nearest neighbor. I think that the default is bilinear. Yeah, the default is bilinear. Whereas GDK texture doesn't do that. GDK texture assumes that you're loading the asset at the size you want it to be displayed. So it does use nearest neighbor interpolation for scaling down. We don't have any way of controlling that at the moment. So we're actually using GDK pixbuff here to get a little bit of a better result. We're also using 256 by 256 pixels because the cover art is going to be 128 logical pixels. So at scaling factor 2 is going to be 128 times 2, so 256. But at scaling factor 1 is going to be 128. So we are scaling it down from 256 to 128 instead of scaling it down from, I don't know, 900 pixels to 128, which is a little bit better, especially if we're using like nearest neighbor. So that I think also will also lead to a slight improvement in the, not just in the loading phase, but also in the display phase. Loading phase definitely, because it's going to be smaller. So I actually measured how much time we spend loading a single song in a queue, and it's about 20 milliseconds on average. And yeah, the caching is also done asynchronously, so it doesn't block, because we don't care about that. We don't care about caching there. We don't care about blocking there. We are not gonna extract the cache while loading it. The cache is there only for one purpose, which is MPRIS. Cough, cough. But yeah, this is the change for, again, for dealing with MPRIS. I'm so sorry that this has to happen, honestly. I mean, yeah. We update the metadata for the song, and we have to get the, we're not even loading the cache. The cache is write only. It's not even like read on. It's not like we are gonna read it. We are literally creating cache just so that MPRIS can point at it. I actually wrote like opened an issue against the MPRIS specification. The problem is nobody's maintaining it. Nobody's maintaining the MPRIS specification. The last time it's been changed was 6 years ago, I think. Let me see. I think it's GitLab Desktop XDG MPRIS. Yeah, MPRIS spec. Yeah, 9 years ago. I literally have no idea who's maintaining it and how. They even have their own like little build system. Sin. There are still people kind of interested, probably. Support user rating setting. But the last email on this list was October 14, 2021. And it has no replies. The previous one was April 2019, no replies. To in 2018, no replies. Oh, yeah, you have to go back to the first quarter of 2018 to see some movement on the MPRIS mailing list. Okay, that's pretty sad. That is really, really sad. Yeah, and the issues are piling on, and nobody's actually doing anything about them. There are a couple of merge requests. Nothing else. Yeah, I'll probably try and ping Bastion. But I have no idea who's still working on this stuff. Or if it is even working, or anybody is actually interested in it. which is always the downside of like a lot of free software work in general. You have to deal with specifications that were written like 15 years ago and nobody's touching them anymore. But yeah, and then a bunch of fixes here and there. Yeah, I did a couple of changes in the how's it called, the styling for the fallback case. So let's add a folder. Let me move this out of the way so you don't actually see everything. Like, for instance, yeah. Right. I added an entire entire artist subfolder because I also toggled the recursive loading. Turns out that it's fast enough. Now that we are doing less work, it's kind of fast enough. But yeah, you can see that the fallback now is different, is slightly different here. So now it's a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And yeah, and today I wanted to implement the removal of the songs from the playlist, actually. So I already started like doing this, but there are a couple of buglets here and there. Like, for instance, if I want, I'm making the button here appear on hover using an event controller motion, which works. Doesn't work for the window, but it works for like internal stuff. And then when I click it, it removes it from the model. But I'm still getting a little bit of a bug here because the playlist here is not updating the minutes remaining count. It only updates when I move to another song. So I need to figure out why. But yeah, it seems to be working well enough right now. But yeah, there are bugs here and there. Like, to be honest, like the rest of Amberol, there are bugs here and there. I don't pretend even for a second that this code is completely bug-free. Would be insane of me to state that. So let's see. Right. So we are. How is implemented? This is actually implemented pretty easily. We use a GDK event controller motion here, and we use the contains pointer property. We bind it. We connect to the notification signal for that property, and then we toggle the visibility of the remove button if depending on the contains pointer property. It's very simple. It doesn't do anything too complicated. It's essentially what in the past would have been done using like two signals there, the enter notify and leave notify signals on GTK widget itself. We kind of moved that away, and well, we moved everything that deals with widget specific signals to controllers, event controllers. In this case, the event controller motion will do the the pointer is moved, or the pointer has left the widget, or the pointer has entered the widget. And then we have a simple property that will tell you if the widget contains the pointer or not. In theory, I could even use property binding here. I could bind the property contains pointer of the event controller to the visible property of the remove button, and then just let it do its thing. In the end, it boils down to this anyway. And then we have a little bit of a kludge. So from the QRow widget, we have no idea about the rest of the application state. The QRow widget is the widget there. Doesn't do anything. It doesn't know about the model. It doesn't know about the position inside the model. This is by design because, as I was saying, list view is a recycler view. So once you go out of once a row widget goes out of view, out of the visible region of the list view widget, then it will be unbound. So its contents will be the widget will stay there, but the current contents will be unbound and rebound to something else, like we have a bunch of stuff here, right? So we load this, and we load the cover, we load the title and the artist, and then we load only the stuff that is visible here. When we move, let's see, this one out of view, because I don't know, reasons, we scrolled or whatever. So this widget didn't really leave. How do I explain this? Yeah. So this widget didn't really get removed or get added. Its contents are changed whenever we scroll down. So this widget is visible, this widget is visible, and so on and so forth. But they are the only visible widgets up to a point, and this is a simplification, of course. You only see these widgets here. When we scroll up, the widgets that are at the bottom the widget coming to view get rebound to something, to another row in the model, and so all of these. It's what makes it scrollable really fast. So you only see the widgets. The widgets that are actually used are only the ones you see here. When you scroll, the content of the widget gets replaced by the next visible row in the model, and so on and so forth. This is how this list view could scale up to like 1 million rows. In reality, it's a trick. It only scales up to like 100 rows or less than 100 rows. The model behind it is like 1 million rows, but we only have a sliding view of that model, a sliding window of that model. So it means that every row it doesn't know about its position inside the model. It only knows that it's visible. That's it. Or at the very least, it knows it's bound to something. And that being bound to something is, for instance, a song. So we actually have to go through a little bit of a kludge, in the sense that we have to add API on the window to say, please remove this song. And we do it like this. Give me the song that is bound to this row, and we remove it. And then the model gets updated, and then when the model gets updated, the rows get rebound to a different a different song inside the model. But yeah, it's kind of a kludge because we are basically just we don't have this here as a, like, I don't know, a signal or an action emission. We could send have sorry, we could have a channel when creating the how's it called, the Curo, and use not and use message passing, which is another option. It's the same way we kind of, it's the same thing we did when we implemented the MPRIS raise action. Like, we have a window action here, and then whenever we create like a bunch of stuff, whenever we create the like here, the audio player, we pass a sender there, and we have a receiver, and we receive an action, and so on and so forth. It actually might be a good idea, to be honest with you. Yeah, why not? It might be a good idea, honestly, to avoid that particular violation. Oh no, we cannot do that. Yeah, we cannot do that because we have a song. We have a song object, and the song doesn't know its position inside the model, because the model might be shuffled, or the model might be whatever. Again, it's a sliding window on top of the model, so the song object by itself doesn't know its position. We have to find the position inside the model for that particular song, and the cue is only known to the window itself as part of the player. So the cue row would have to find the position inside the model and then send a message with the position attached to it, because the song object is not sendable across like thread barriers or whatever. I cannot attach a song to the message. I can only send like copyable stuff. So I cannot really do it. I'll have to figure something out. Right now it's fine. It's kind of a kludge. It's good enough. It's not a massive like violation there. We are still inside the main thread because we are still dealing with widgets. We're not dealing with anything special. Let me see. Yeah. I mean, we are just telling, like, please remove the song from this. Oh, I know why it's not happening now. Now that I think about it, of course it's not happening. Where are you? Add songs. Yeah, add song notifies the end song property. And I am not doing that here. I bet now it's working. Now it's gonna be working. Yeah, that was. I am a dum-dum sometimes. So let's add the music folder here. And then we remove one. Yep, now the playlist is updating itself. Okay. And if I shuffle here and I remove song, yep. Yeah, that's fine. So now we have the ability to clear the entire queue or entire playlist and so on and so forth. Good. Oh, that was less problematic than I thought it would be. So and then we will need yeah, I have a bunch of yikes. Okay, so let's fix this. QRS here, it's line 151. Yeah, this is it's way too long. I honestly cannot overstate the importance of having a coding style like checker. So we'll need something else here in song. Ah, yeah. Compressing the use statements as kind of thing. And then QRO, where are you? Here. And yeah, this. Not here, but here, and then down to this init widgets. Yep. So imp net clicked, and then yeah, I'll have to figure out a way to do this without necessarily going to the application singleton and the active window inside the application singleton and then calling out a method on the window itself. The only way around it would be to have a back pointer on the song from to the model and then have a way to access that, but I think that is a yuck. That is probably a worse layering violation. This one, at the very least, I'm accessing the parent, the ancestor of the Q row widget. I'm accessing the top level, which is something that is perfectly legitimate from a UI design perspective. Sending a message would be better, but if I wanted to send a message, I would have to either send the song object, which means it has to be sendable, which requires like mindfuck, and and then I would be able to send a message attached, send the song attached to the message. I mean, I can send simple data types like position, which is a U32, or the volume, which is a float 64, but sending a complex object that is an actual G object, not gonna happen. And if I didn't want to do that, then I would have to have a way from the queue row to access the queue itself, and then figure out the position inside the model. But the queue is attached to the window itself, so it's attached to the player, which is attached to the window. At that point, honestly, it's the same thing. It will work the same way. So might as well do this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now it's working fine. What did I do next? Yeah. This change happened. Oh yeah, because if we remove or add a single element from the, well, not a single element, but if we remove something or add something at a specific position inside the backing store, and the backing store then gets shuffled, then we have to unshuffle it. Or we get to find the position inside the shuffle. So we have to change that. So it's actually a fix for the shuffle list model, but we'll leave it after. This one too, we'll leave for after. This one is the change. So this kind of thing is going to be useful for later if I decide to add a way to move up and down inside the queue a song. I cannot really do drag and drop. At the very least, I have no idea how to do drag and drop with a list view. It's kind of complicated. And then, yeah, let's start with this. Okay, so we need to add API here. No. Not this, but this. And then we add the changes to the, okay. Okay. We display the remove on hover each row, and we remove there is a issue open for this, if I remember correctly. Add queue operations, yes. So let's do this. I don't know if fixes is correct. There are two issues there. So let's split this into two issues. So new issue. And then what the some from 19. Always remember this. One issue per issue. That's into 40. Right, okay. No, that was stupid of me. Okay. Back to this. So, issue 40 we are fixing now. Audio. Unshuffle the translation and the emitting signal. Shuffled mode. This one goes on a different branch though. Slash switch main next. So yeah, this one. Fix up this. Yeah. This is always the annoying part of doing this work. You realize you forgot something while you already switched to another context because I completely forget to. It's not that I forget to run the various style checks here because I remember to run it. The problem is I run it and then do some rebasing, light rebasing, or some like context switching, and then the check doesn't actually work. I do far too many rebases and like interactive rebases and squashing and fix up commits that running this on every single commit as a post commit hook or a pre commit hook would be absolutely terrible. I honestly tried doing that, and yeah, I just got really angry for no apparent reason. So we have a bunch of merge requests here. So we have merge request 26, which is the big one, and then which closes this, this, and this. But I also have another couple of merge requests there. Oh, this one is a fun one. I need to actually fix. Basically, so one of the things that changed over the years is how we approach assets when using them inside an application, a Linux application. Back in the olden days, I'm talking about like 20 years ago, if you had an icon that you wanted to ship with your application, you had to ship it with your application. So you had two options. One was using a format like XPM, which is essentially taking a bitmap and encoding it so that it can be reformatted as a C data structure. So you literally include the icon as source file. You're of course limited to number of colors and size and shape and data set. You cannot use scalable. You cannot use scalable like assets. You only have bitmaps. The other option was to take the icon and save it as a file on disk, usually inside the package data library, the package data directory of your application, which is again typically user share your application name. In AutoTools parlance, it's the package data dir. The side effect of the first approach is you are limited in what kind of assets you can ship. Of course, in 2001, nobody gave a shit because it was 2000. Like even like late 90s, your displays were like smaller, like the amount of colors were whatever they were, so it wasn't a huge deal. Also, let's be clear, the kind of artistry involved in late 90s free and open source software applications wasn't that high. In the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, we started like going, oh, we can do like vector assets for our icons. That is amazing. If you remember, if you were around at the time and you remember, there was like the Gorilla theme, which was all scalable vectors, and it was super slow. It was all done on the CPU. The SVG loading was super slow. The SVG rendering was super slow. So yeah, no. Still, it was a massive change in how we deal with assets, because now you have to like load a bunch of stuff and you have to ship it. And what happens when you have a bunch of applications that want to ship the exact same kind of assets? You can embed them inside the toolkit, but that limits you to the amount of toolkits, the amount of assets the toolkit can use. The toolkit cannot like expose a bunch of assets for you to use. Spoiler alert, we did. It's how the stock icon API came to be, but hi Georges. But the solution for that particular problem was to invent icon themes. Icon themes are on-disk assets. They are described in a specific layout in your system. The directory is a specific layout, so you have the name of the icon theme, you have the size of the icon, you have the role of the icon, and then you have the icon name. And then you can access the icon using the name of the icon, not the file name, but the name of the icon. And within a specific context, the system will load the correct asset for you. And the other great thing, like quote unquote, is that you can have multiple icon themes, and then you can switch between them. And at the end of the day, if you have a name that is unbound by the specificity of an actual asset on disk, but it's bound to an icon theme name, then you can have your UI just reference these named icons, and then you can swap the asset beneath the application's ass the way you want it to. That's how icon themes work, and were defined at the like 20 years ago. Turns out that it's a problem to have a bunch of names. Like, there are various problems. The first problem is that nobody is responsible for defining what names are or are not available inside an icon theme. You basically created a library, like API, and nobody is actually responsible for maintaining that API. Good job. So, of course, the way it was solved was, okay, let's add inheritance to the themes. So if you have a theme that doesn't provide an icon, you can say, I inherit from this other theme. So, like, look into this other theme for the icon. And the other theme can do the same, and so on and so forth, until you hit the default theme, which is called iColor. So you go through all the icon themes you have in your system that inherit from that particular, they inherit from another theme, and at some point you will find an icon. And if you don't find an icon, well, you're fucked. But of course, that doesn't solve basically anything, because the names are still very much unmaintained. So an application can rely on, give me folder icon A, and there is no theme that provides it, except the theme that the application developer was using at the very time when they were developing the application. No other theme has it. Good. Okay, what are you going to do now? Whatever. You're going to show a missing icon. The missing icon asset. The other problem is that and it's part of the maintenance issue, is that the icons have a name, but also have an appearance. And the appearance may change depending on the artists that make the icons. So you might call it like folder trash, and that is probably gonna look like a rubbish bin. But if an icon theme author decides to like make another icon, make the folder trash that looks like, I don't know, how's it called? Rubbish, like a rubbish bit, like how's it called? A skip. The semantics kind of change at that point. So people do not look at the icon by the name, but they look at the icon by the way the icon looks. And then from that, they determine the name. But that means that the way the icon looks and the name are now unbound, which means that I use a theme that has a specific icon for a specific name. And then when a user launches the application under a different icon theme, the icon will look completely different. So the application will not look the way I envision it. And you might say, okay, then we should have specific names for specific metaphors. And that doesn't work. that doesn't scale because you have no maintenance over the names. Nobody decides the names or the aspects or the semantics of an icon. It's just the icon theme developers. So a bunch of people are actually depending on what the add white icon theme for GNOME like provides, but that puts the Advaita icon theme maintainers into the awkward position of saying, okay, every single icon theme must do exactly what Advaita does. Again, not great. Not great at all. Because also that prevents the Advaita icon theme from ever changing. So now not only you define an API, you define an API that must not ever change. And on top of that, you have defined an API that must not ever change even if the applications change. And nobody maintains the API on top of that. So yeah, great job. So the move, well, not the movement, but the thing that, like, the solution for this particular set of problems that was introduced by icon themes is basically to go back to how icon themes, to how we did things before icon themes became a thing. And it is shipping the icons with your application. Still, you want to ship your icons using something that is similar to an icon theme, maybe the way we deal with icon themes. So you don't manually load each and every asset at startup and then you say, use this asset here, please. You still use icon names, but the icons come from your application itself. And these days also we have better ways of embedding the assets so that they get loaded with the application itself, or at the very least they are all bundled together, so you don't have to deal with loading specific assets and then installing stuff and missing some file here and there. Okay. But yeah, ebbs and flows of history. We figured out a solution for a problem, and that solution had other problems that we found out in 20 years. So now we're going back to an iteration of the previous solution. I have, yep. Yeah, this one. So now what I've done is I took all the icons that I'm using currently that I know for a fact are not shipped by GTK itself, and then I'm embedding them inside the G resource for Amberol so that I know that these assets will always be available. I still use the name, the icon theme name, so if your icon theme has them, in theory we can fall back to them, but the first choice will always be the icons that we are shipping. So if you don't have these assets inside your icon theme, if you don't have the SVG loader, well, if you don't have the SVG loader, you're kind of fucked anyway. But if you're using Flatpak, which is what I strongly recommend, you will have the SVG loader. So even if you don't have the icon theme, you will have assets, so the UI will not look completely broken. I've seen people like take screenshots and they are missing all the icons here, and yeah, not great at all. ideally, this is a process that is very manual at the moment. I had to launch the icon library application here. Let me launch the icon library application, find the icon I want, like for instance, the playback start. Then I have to go and click here. Then I have to save the SVG. Then I have to copy this XML here. And then modify the manifest to add it. I have a non-obvious layout. So I have to add an alias here for the GResource to store the stuff in the right place. And then repeat that for every single asset that I care about. It's not great, honestly. It would be a lot better if either Icon Library or GNOME Builder had a plugin. Well, GNOME Builder had a plugin, or Icon Library did this out of its own volition and let me select multiple icons inside the view, like being able to select multiple icons and then say, please export all of this inside my application, and it would create that, and it would either create a GResource XML file, or at the very least like presented the XML for me to copy. That would be a lot better, because if you're doing it for one icon every once in a while, that's fine, but I had to do this for like 13 icons, and that's not fun, especially because I knew what icons I needed, so I already had all the list. Instead, I had to search every single one of them, find it, select it, export it, and then blah blah blah. Not great. Okay. So this one should now work. But yeah, I have a bunch of merge requests there, and I think I'll probably merge them all today. I'm still likely going to leave the release of Amberol 0.4 to Friday, but I will likely land everything today. I don't want to wait that long. I still have a merge request I'm waiting for. But this one can wait. Yeah, I'm planning to, like, I really like to get a proper asynchronous way of loading a bunch of folders recursively, but right now I think it's fine to have the traverse the file system synchronously and then load everything asynchronously in an idle handler, even if the application isn't, like, you cannot scroll the playback the playlist while you're loading like 150 to 100 songs. That's fine. For like what I would call a beta, like now it's beta quality basically. With all of these changes, I would upload it to beta quality. It's fine. But yeah, by Friday I want to do a 0.4 release, so I can publish it. People are already clamoring for a release with the latest round of changes. Can you remind me how Amberol uses a window without a header bar? Yeah, of course. We are using here add white application window. The add white application window doesn't have a header bar by default. Then inside the add white application window, we put a GTK window handle, which is the thing that handles the dragging and resizing of the window. And inside it, we pack everything else. In this case, we pack the header bar and then the stack that presents the various states of the application. And also, hi, cheap wheel. But yeah, it's a very simple add white application window. It's not a GTK application window. GTK application window comes with a header bar by default because it has to. Strictly speaking, the Amberol window has a header bar. You don't see it because it's flat, but it has a header bar there. It's just without a title, and it's again flat. So you don't actually notice it, but it's there. Yeah, there's a bit of a hack here. We pack a GTK box as the title widget, but it's empty and invisible. So if you do GTK window set title, it will not try to update the title inside the header bar. Otherwise, if you didn't set this, the default GTK header bar would have a GTK label as a title, and calling GTK window set title would set the text inside the label. Whereas we don't want to do that. So if we pack a GTK box inside the title, GTK will not try to touch it. Oh, this is the, yeah, it's the old one. I'm so used to running with all the changes like merged that this one is directly on main, which has a non-resizable main window. And the old assets, the old layout. I'll have to rebase it on top of the next one. But yeah, now all these assets you see here come from the embedded, their embedded copy. They are not coming from the system theme. I ran it to show it to you, but yeah, there is a header bar here. You can see it because the header bar contains the close button here. So here there's a header bar, and the background of the header bar is the devel style class here that adds the zebra crossing. But there is a header bar, and it's here because it has a close button. Otherwise, there would be no close button. Okay. Yeah, this is still running. Yeah, everything has worked out. So this is the very latest thing, the very latest branch. It has a ton of commits, and I don't want to leave it hanging that long. So let's merge it. And then we are going to close this. Okay. And we're going to close this as well. So we have fewer open merge requests. And now we are going to take this and merge it as well. Let's actually rebase it. So we are going to do fetch origin. So now we are going to rerun this merge request here. Uh, 26. So 26. Part of 26. Okay. So we closed like 3 issues here, but and then we are gonna merge this as well. A bunch of... Oh yeah, also I haven't... Okay. Did I also merge this? Okay. Of course, I never remember if I did something. History. Yeah, we toggle recursive loading here. Yeah, I need to rebase. No. Song. Yeah. Go away. And we put this at the top because it doesn't matter at all. Okay. Okay. And let's see now. So we should have a new merge request now, which is removing songs from the playlist. Fixes 40. So when we merge this, it's gonna go away. So we're gonna have to merge these two as well. And we have a few issues still open. This one was fixed. Then, yeah. This has been fixed by the new layout. Okay. Yeah, I'm still not entirely sold on this. Being able to load a separate file from the current directory is... It requires changing the way we build songs. So it adds a lot of complications, especially in a future where we move the file system traversal to a non-blocking operation. It means whenever we go through a directory, we find all the how's it called? All the songs. And then if we find a cover JPEG, we have to keep track of it, but not really. Basically, it would work by extracting all the... How would that even work? We would need like a music folder definition, and the music folder definition would then need to load all the files inside the folder. And if it has a cover.jpg, then we do that. It could... I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So one way to do it, and it's terrible, but it's one way to do it, is using a flattened list model. So we traverse every single directory we have, and we create a flattened a list model of all the elements inside the directory. If there are song files, and if there is a cover.jpg, we add it. Then at the end, instead of creating songs, we actually create, instead of creating a list store of all the song files in a flat like layout, we create a flattened list model, which is a list model of list models. And the flattened list model can be iterated as if it were a single list model. It's one of the list models that are provided by GTK4. It's kind of useful, but at that point becomes weird. I'd have to create a separate list model that is a list model of songs. And whenever you load a directory, you don't load a single file. And inside that, like, music directory model, I would create all the songs for that particular thing, that particular music directory, and then assign the cover art in the directory to the song. It's doable, I mean, I just outline how I would implement it. It's doable, but it's also kind of slow and kind of a mess. Mostly because it requires you to define a music directory as a directory that only contains music. But the file system is laid out differently. You have a directory which contains a directory which contains another directory that contains music. So I would need to traverse the file system. If I find a directory that contains music, then I create that only contains music. I create a music directory for that. Otherwise, I will just leave it alone. It would make the music loading code so complicated. I mean, it's doable. This would work is the loading code music where to be changed by to instead of traversing the file system and collecting all songs, build song objects. Okay. The music loading will need to be changed so that every time we found a directory that only contains music, we created music folder object that implemented the list model and turned every single file inside into and the playlist model would be moved from a list store to a PDK of either the list store or music folder. For single songs, directories. I have no plan to work on this. So if somebody wants to take this issue, feel free to do so. And I need to do a label like feature. Let's create a new label there. Up for grabs. Tagging issues as app for grabs so that people that know that want to work on something, they can work on it. Yeah, this another issue that I don't know if I should close it directly there. It's kind of hard. I cannot save the current state and then restore it without having access to the location from within the sandbox. I mean, it would work for files under the music directory, the XDG user music, but it wouldn't work for any other file. So it's kind of complicated to do that. So let's add, not need design, but feature, and then up for grabs. Let's see. Okay. Ship the assets. Merge it. And this one too. Let's merge it. Good. Okay, this one has been fixed. Fixed-ish. This has been fixed by 26, but it's still very, very much experimental and might just break. And yeah, this is how you do triage. Okay, this one is a feature. Okay. for using explicit controls on the 2-row widget. Right, to do that, let me see if I can switch back to main. Okay. So let's rebuild it. Yeah, it's moving stuff around is going to be interesting. From a UI perspective, it's not going to be that hard. It means adding a button or a couple of buttons inside the queue row near the remove button. Now that we have it, it's not going to be a huge deal to do that. I think Fragments has something like that. I think I saw inside a screenshot for Fragments. Let me see. Flutter. Let's see. Yeah. Where are you? Here. So Fragments has something like that inside the main UI. Good, it's running. No, let me see if the beta version has a better zoom. No, still pretty small. So, yeah, it has these two little buttons up and down that move up and down the element inside the queue. So it kind of makes sense. To have something similar to that. That would work. That would work. We pack a box and we pack like another box here with two buttons vertically and another button here. From an implementation perspective, we would need to do the exact same like kludge that the remove button has, which means adding API inside the window to move a song up and down inside the playlist, but it would work. Let me double check that everything is working out correctly. So music, let's go churches. And here we go. Yeah, here the timing information is we are taking, so we traverse all of the file system here, and then we create the song object here, and it takes about 30 milliseconds, between 20 and 30 milliseconds for each single song, which is a couple of frames. The cover data stuff is inconsequential because it's it happens in a thread, so it doesn't matter. But yeah. And that works. Good. Oh, God. Yeah, no, there are some like outliers for 50 milliseconds. Also, my song directory is not on my SSD. It's on my spinning Rust drive, where all the media I have is. It's because it's a multi-terabyte hard drive, so it costs a lot less than a terabyte SSD. But yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, the Kivro change would need something like this. Child end, instead of having an object here, an object GK button, would need an object class GK box. No ID, it's fine. Then we have property. This one is packed horizontally, so it doesn't need anything except spacing, 2 pixels. Then we have a child and another child. And then we put the button okay. Put the button inside the second child. Oh, we probably also want to do something like this. Style plus main destructive action. And then inside here we have another box. In this case, we have no spacing. This one is going to be H align center and name B align center. And then it will have a child. It's going to be GTK button ID move up. Fuck's sake. We have to figure that out. Property name. Fit text. Translatable. Yes. Move up here. And then yeah, nothing else. And then it will have a child object class. Name. Name tooltip text translatable. For the icons, we will need the icon library. Hi, Martinez. Search tab in GNOME settings also has a really cool way of items arranging. Yeah, that is true. But it's a different widget. The what's it called? The sidebar, well, the search tab is using a list box, which uses a completely different way of arranging stuff. Whereas I'm using a list view, which is automatically generated content from a model. It's kind of different. So move up and down. Move. Now go up. Yay. So we will have to do this and include it inside an app. So we save the SVG to projects, Amberol, source, assets, icons. Then we have to copy this. And then we have to go on the G-resource file. Go up. There is no need for straight blanks. Oh. Here we go. Then we go down. Yep. We do exactly the same. Save SVG. And then we copy this and close this. It's going to be here. Go down symbolic. And this one is going to be assets, icons. Not assets, asset. Okay, so this one is going to be fine. This one is going to be go up symbolic, and this one is going to be go down symbolic. Hi Carwin, or Nelson. Interesting sounding project. Are your the Rust GTK bindings to work with? Does it feel native to Rust or is it a little clunky? Okay. So this is a right. It doesn't feel that clunky. Of course, GTK is an object-oriented like UI toolkit with a bunch of nested hierarchies and stuff like that. So it's not exactly the same. Oh, I'm missing something here, but yeah. It's kind of not how Rust is usually implemented. Rust is more flat. You have a bunch of objects, and at most you get traits that you implement on top of objects, and that's fine. So it's a little bit different. It's not clunky, but it's different. You have upcasts and downcasts, so it's more it feels a little bit alien. A little bit. Not that much, but a little bit alien. For the rest, any GObject based API like GTK has implicit rules on moving memory around. We take those rules and we document them. We even add them as annotations so that they can be machine readable. That means that a lot of the functionality of our APIs is encoded not in the C API, but it's encoded inside the documentation and the introspection API. So you have conventions at the C level that get transferred to language bindings. In the case of Rust, not only they get transferred to the these conventions not only get transferred to the language binding like model internally, but also inside the type system. So they are made explicit. If I get some memory out of a widget, the type system will tell me, or the borrow checker will tell me, you are operating on a copy, or you are operating on the actual data of that that is owned by that object. And if you're moving memory around like that, then you get help by the language itself, which again makes some of the behavior of the C API more explicit and part of the language. In that regard, is not any more alien than any other Rust native API that I've used. There are some clunkiness here and there. The main clunkiness that I think deserves its own chapter of all the things that are different from a pure Rust project is the fact that you cannot really rely on cargo. Cargo will take you up to a certain point, but other than that, you really need to have a build system, because cargo has absolutely no idea what an icon or a G resource or a desktop file even are. You could write a cargo extension that did that, but at that point, I'd contend that using a proper build system is actually a better choice. Also because the proper build system can check if you have installed libraries and bail out a lot earlier than cargo will. And also doesn't require you to write Rust to build your project. So the main difference from a pure Rust project is going to be the build system. That is going to be the thing that slaps you in the face instantaneously. If you can get over that, if you don't really care about cargo for that, then it's fine. The other thing is that I am a C developer by trade and by I'd say by choice. Most of my code is written in C. I wrote and contribute to projects that are C libraries. So I write C code, usually for a living. Not right now, but usually for a living, I do that. The end result is that some of the stuff that Rust and the GTK Rust binding do are perfectly sensible to my C developer high. The split between when you're subclassing GObject in Rust, you have a split between the Rust bit and the public API of that type. That is perfectly natural for me as a C developer, because that's what I do when writing GObjects in C. If you're used to writing like Python or JavaScript or Perl or even Vala, it will feel like, what the fuck just happened? Why do I need to write code twice? Which is, I mean, fair enough, but there you can get a lot of mileage out of that split. For instance, let me give you a quick example on the differences there. Let's say I have this simple widget. This simple widget is literally a box with 3 widgets inside. It's a composite template which means that it's defined inside the inside a UI file. The UI file is super simple. It's literally just a widget with 3 widgets inside. Done. Doesn't do anything special. The code in Rust is not any different than what I would do in C. I create an instance or a private data structure that contains pointers to all the widgets there. And then I set a layer manager and I set the CSS name and I initialize the template. And then when I have to dispose stuff, I unparent all the widgets, I define properties. That's it. It's literally like how I would do it in C. Then you have the public API, the public part of your API, which is the constructor and the accessor for the property. So there is kind of a split. So this part is completely private because it's an internal implementation detail, and then you have the public API that is available here. I shouldn't even need, let me see. Yeah, I don't even need this public method here. And I wouldn't even need the new here because I have default implemented. So it could be even simpler. Good example in GNU Cache, a great place of build system as impenetrable. Yeah, I mean, GNU Cache, I still think that it uses auto tools, if I remember correctly. And auto tools are a pain. That is the kind of what happens with C, essentially. C and C++ developers are used to having the build system outside of their language toolchain, which is why AutoTools exist, or like CMake exist, or Meson exist. It's because there is the toolchain and there is the build system. And a lot of newer languages, especially compiled ones, decided we should not have the build system as a separate part of our toolchain. It should be part of our toolchain, just like our coding style checker should be part of our toolchain, and so on and so forth. This has advantages and disadvantages, personally. I think. Well, that's my position. Cargo is a incredibly shitty build system. Like, controversial opinion, Cargo is shit. Which is not true. Cargo is not shit. Cargo is clearly the result of prototyping gone for far too long, and now we are in sunken cost fallacy territory. The idea of doing version checking on your dependencies, listing your dependencies in a way that is declarative, and then cloning or downloading the dependencies wherever needed, and then building everything in order, that's fine, that's great, that's a good idea. The problem is, if you are only building native code that will go into either another library or a command line tool, that's good enough, but congratulations, you just reinvented AutoTools circa 1987. And if it's 2015 and you're doing that and you're basically copying what C and C++ developers were doing 30 years before, you haven't solved the problem. You haven't solved any problem at all. You're just doing like second order syndrome, like all over again. And again, it speaks to a limited mindset that regard, which is fine if again, it's 2015. Rust is like 3-4 years old, and cargo is new, and Rust doesn't have even a 1.0 release yet. It's 2014, 2015, whatever. But again, that speaks of a limited mindset, because everything is new and you have no idea what the language will do in the future, right? And there are not many people writing GUI applications that are portable across systems and depend on random like shared libraries lying around on your system. It was at that point that the people making cargo should have taken cargo out and then started from scratch and wrote a better build system. Instead, they decided to add the escape hatch that everyone adds because everyone makes the same mistakes and nobody learns from anybody in this industry, and it's frustrating and stupid. They decided to add build.rs, which is the escape hatch of running code. Like, let's compile code and run it to do stuff. Find like shared libraries, and then do other things. And then let's do another stupid thing, which is let's add plugins to our packaging tool / build system. So you can do things like manipulating the cargo toml file, or like installing random files somewhere else, or doing releases. And it's just, what the fuck? And then you look at what like a modern build system like Meson does, which is a lot. It does a lot. It has plugins that are in tree for a reason, but it really does a lot. You cannot really expect to do that. You cannot expect to implement that with cargo. Cargo has no idea about recompiling the G-setting schema files, or on installation, or updating the MIME database because you installed a MIME handler file somewhere in the system. It's all based on the assumption that you're building a single binary that's going to be moved into your path, and that's it. And again, it's great if you're shipping a command line tool, but if you're shipping a GUI, that's not how things work at all. And I think that is the limitation of cargo. That's a limitation of the people are making cargo. And now that you can use Rust to do a lot more than just command line tools, the people that are making cargo are in complete sunken cost fallacy mode. So we cannot change cargo. We must not change cargo. Every other tool in existence must bend to make cargo work. And no, God, no. Nothing works that way anymore. So at some point, I think they will throw in the towel and then realize, okay, maybe we need to integrate with everything else. So if cargo, instead of doing a ton of stuff, cargo decided to expose all the targets, so that, for instance, Meson could build things, that would be great. It won't happen because the people that make cargo are not interested in that at the moment, because for them it's fine. For them, cargo is perfectly fine in what it does, and instead of being an actual tool for people that are not writing command line tools. But yeah, as I said, this is my controversial opinion for the day. Oh yeah, only links to GNOME are allowed. Spam. Spam is a thing, sadly. And yeah, a lot of file extensions are now top level domains, because the internet is bad. So if you put a file name with an extension, the bot will consider it a link most of the time. It happened with so if you look for makefile.am, so if you go to makefile.am, it's actually a web URL. Yeah. Makefile.am is autotools.info. Because this is the internet we made. So let's see if the change I made actually works. Yeah, it needs to be vertical. Right. So Qro UI. This one is going to be property name orientation vertical. And also we will need to move this to the outer box. And we'll need to do controls box here. And then we will need to modify the Qro, okay, to contain a child controls box child a box. Then we'll need template child move up button. And a copy of this as move down button. And then here we will need not remove button but controls box. Does GNOME build a visual layout tool for visualizing the XML you're typing? It has a visual tool to display the structure of the XML. Let me go here, here, and if you go here, you get the structure, and you can also search in it inside it. It doesn't have a visual like render of the XML, of the UI definition file. It doesn't have one for GTK4 because GTK4 is completely different. But it will have in the future. As soon as it's ported to GTK4, it will. Does Meson call Rust C? Okay, Meson can call Rust C if you only are building like Rust code for your project. If you are depending on cargo on crates, then yes, Meson will have to call a separate script that we have here, like this. It's a simple shell script that basically just builds everything. And there's a here. You basically call it as a custom target, and it will run it inside the build route. There's also a dist script that will vendor all the dependencies inside the dist tarball. So it's possible to publish tarballs that are almost self-hosting. So you can use it to distribute your application. It's what I use for publishing Amberol on FlatHub. Because otherwise, FlatHub could use the manifest using like a commit ID and a branch or a tag. But I would need to take the cargo manifest, extract all the dependencies, find them, and build a Flatpak manifest. There is a tool that does that in the FlatHub Git repository. There is a tool there's a Python script that basically parses your TOML file here, finds all the dependencies, all the recursive dependencies, basically just gets every single crate you need, and generates a JSON file that contains the instructions for Flatpak to download all the dependencies up front. So it can build everything without connecting to the network. Hi, Alatiera. It does that. I tried running it on my machine, tried running it on this manifest, and it almost kind of worked, but not really. I think it's a little bit complicated. Where I use features and stuff, and I don't know if that script actually handles that properly. And I didn't have time to deal with it. Let's see again the layout here. It's too big. Why is it too big? Need to squish it a little bit. But yeah, this is how. Yeah, yikes. Yeah, this is very yikes. I'll need to figure out a way to squish it a little bit. Adding a folder is limited at level depth? Yes. Well, it was up until half an hour ago when I merged the main next branch. Now it will traverse the folders recursively. But yeah, it was intentional before that, because of the synchronous song loading. But now it works. I mean, I would never, ever, ever try and load my entire music collection with this. Like 10,000 songs, it will die. But if you're loading up, I don't know, 100 songs, it should be fine. The songs are also loaded once per like main loop iteration. So only the active file system traversal runs inside the main loop. Yeah, symlinks are terrible. In this case, no, symlinks will be completely ignored. We only go through regular files. So if there is a symlink, it will be discarded. Symlinks in general are such a terrible idea that I don't know why we're still putting up with them. They're just a source of security issues at this point. So I need to figure out a way to squish this. I don't know how. Yeah, start beta. It's probably doing something here. I don't have fragments installed, so I'm not gonna be able to see it. I could look at it inside. Let me see. I have a clone of fragments. Let's see. UI. Torrent Pro. Okay. It's vertical. description label, okay, action stack here. So we have a remove object here, that's fine. Then we have a queue up and arrow up tiny symbolic. It's probably a custom icon at that point. And it also using the linked NQ button. So it's using specific styles there as well, but also arrow up tiny symbolic. Yeah. Yeah, there are yeah, there are custom icons. Okay. I understand now. I understand how it's done. It's also using GTK 3. No, it's using GTK 4. Yeah, okay. So I can use linked. Add white linked. Link controls. Yeah, here. So I would need to have. Okay, Q row. UI, and this here would need to be style plus name. But yeah, it cannot be go up symbolic and go down symbolic. It would be a tiny version of that. Let's do something that is compatible with our licensing. So fragments, data, icons, color, scalable, status, arrow up, tiny symbolic, and we copy it under source, GTK, assets. No, source GTK, source assets, icons. And then also arrow down tiny symbolic, and then we use this tiny and arrow down tiny symbolic, and also we go here and we rename it arrow down tiny yeah, arrow down tiny, and this one too, arrow up tiny. This is somewhat suboptimal, but it's kind of what I would do anyway. Okay, let's go it let's do it like this. Yeah. It will have to be rebuilt anyway. What I was trying to do was load an album into version or an artist folder when I only have a single album anyway. Yeah, I mean, if you have a single, if you want to load up every single album in an artist, if your music folder's layout is exactly like it's mine, which means it's the correct one. the typical way is artist name, and then you have album name, and the overall idea is that if you want to load every single album inside an artist directory, then it's fine, unless you have a million albums from the same artist, then you're gonna be fine. But again, this music player is not meant to be used to... Okay, why is it doing this? Oh yeah, because it's the style is different also. But yeah, if you have like a large collection and you want to load it up completely at the same time, then you're pretty much screwed. I would never recommend using this music player for that. I would recommend using something that has a database, and you import a music collection into the database, and then the application will manage the database. Otherwise, no. Don't use Winamp to manage a 600 gigabytes music collection. That would be insanity. Let's see the style. Q, yeah. So Q button. The Q box here, yeah, and Q button. Something like this. That changes the size of the button. So yeah. Let's do this instead. Okay. And then we go inside Curo and we add a style to the... Whoa. Okay. That was fun. Not. Let me reopen. Wow, that was a crash that I haven't experienced in a while. So let's see. Okay, here it's fine. We were saying Curo here, and we add a style class here. And this one. Okay, now it's working. So yeah, this one will move up and this one will move down. Yeah. Let me double check. Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, okay. So in order to implement that, well, first of all, we'll need to remove these two here. And we'll add these two after that. And then we will need to do the exact same thing we've done elsewhere for the remove button. So it's going to be then move song up. And then move song down. One thing you have to learn when writing application code is giving up the idea that everything has to be well separated and well defined, and all the information must be hidden, and everything has to be simple connection between objects. It never works that way. It works that way in library because it has no direct influence on what is presented to the user. But from an application perspective, yeah, you will have layering violations. You can try avoid them, avoid most of them, and you can design your application so that it's good and clean and separated. But you will always have this if you want to ship anything. If you want to spend your time like honing the code base to the point that it's perfect and shiny and in a frictionless void, you will never ship anything. So yeah, here we'll do the exact same thing. Self and move up button, connect, select. So we're gonna have to copy all of this. Move song up. And then we do the exact same thing. For the down button. Okay. So we also need to add API to the queue that does that. Let's close a little bit. So here we do let queue take the queue object and we do queue move up, move some. And the same thing here, let queue. And then we go into the queue. Let's go here. So, how are we going to do this? We can find we have to remove the song while keeping it at the current, while keeping a reference to it, and then we re-add it, we reinsert it at a specific position. I need to check if the list store API has an insert, and of course it does. So first of all, we need to find the current position of the song. So store. No, we can just do self in songs. That's fine. So 4 pause and 0 to unknown songs. As usual, I start with the stupidest possible implementation and then try to make it good. But first, stupid and working. And if it's working, it's not entirely stupid. Okay. If what s equals here. Okay. Do we have? I don't have an API that returns the position, so we'll have to do this differently. So fn get some position. There we go. This one is here. It could be an option U32 if you're trying to ask for a song outside. But again, I'm not writing a library. If you have a song, it means it's coming from the model, from the queue. So you will always find it. If I wanted to be extra safe because I was writing a library, then I would have to add an option U32 and stuff like that. It's pointless. I know where the songs are coming from. You cannot create a song at random and then ask for its position because it's, yeah, why? Okay, so let us so self get some position. Okay, so now move up is position -1. So if pos equals 0, we are already at the top. So we return instantaneously. So now we do we will need to remove the song. So yeah, the song is there, but it's a reference. So we'll need to remove the song while keeping a strong reference to it. So we could do song equals song clone. That should work. Basically keep no, because of course we are changing the type there. So okay, I'll remove doesn't return anything. Okay. So we are going to do clone. And then we are going to self remove song. So if we remove a song, if we move the song up from 1, it becomes 0. But if we remove it, then we might risk changing the position there. So another option would be to add the song first at the new position and remove it at the old position. Oh no, because insert will try and see if there is the symbol, the object already exists. Let me double check the advantages of list store. Okay. No, it doesn't check for duplicates. Let's see. Yeah, you shouldn't be checking for duplicates, so we can remove the song and then insert it again. Self insert. Is -1 and then Rust will probably just kill me now. Okay. It's not self, of course. It's self in store. Sorry. And yeah, this one is move some down. It will be +1. I fully expect this to result in a crash. So okay. No, seems to be working. Wow. Yeah, this is Ah, bad. This is not gonna be like this. This is gonna be pause is self and songs -1. So maybe we need to insert it first and then remove it. Yeah. Let's see if it works that way. Feels a little bit dirty, but yeah, maybe it will work out. Ah, yeah. Oh, yes, I knew it. This is hilarious. Fix me, handle the same item multiple times in the list. Lars says this totally should not happen, but here we are. Oh, yes, we need to remove the song first. I expected that to happen. And we cannot move that. In reality, no, this is not. So, pause 0 is fine, but also we need to check the current song. Because if it's the current song, we cannot move it before that. The other one is if let sum current equals self current song. Never remembered this one. Yeah, get. Where are you? Yes, yes. Poke fun at that. Okay. Pause equals current. +1. So no, it's pause -1 equals current. So yeah, it's parallel +1. Return. Yeah, sometimes I do have fun while writing code. Just sometimes. Yeah, again, I'm dumb. And again, I'm dumb. It would be nice to have code completion, but I think the Rust TLS, the Rust language server is not entirely working at the moment. Or maybe I don't have it installed. Who knows? So This one doesn't work, perfect. But this one does. Doesn't go up, but yay. Attempt to subtract with an overflow. Awesome. Oh yeah, I need to do a checked sub. Okay, current. Yeah. Oh, the beauty of a language that does actually check if you're trying to overflow or underflow an unsigned integer. Rust check sub. It's going to be U32. Yeah, check sub. I think this is part of the standard library. Is it? Is it not? Or maybe not. Do I need to import? Do I need to import num? Let's do it this way. Pause plus 1 equals current. Let's not touch current. We know that pause is larger than 0 already, so it's gonna be fine. No. Okay, this one doesn't go up because it cannot play in the back, but it goes down. And this one goes up again, and okay. Seems to be working. What a shocking twist. Okay, so let's switch to a separate branch. Okay, QMove. And then we are going to do moving service down the fixes. This is 41, if I remember correctly. Yep, 41. Okay. Well, that was fun. Yeah. What time is it? Oh, it's 7 o'clock. Nice. So I guess we are going to leave this up until it finishes, but at this point I think it will land inside the main development branch by Friday. And on Friday we are going to do an Amberol release, the 0.4. It's going to be exciting. After 0.4, yeah, release, then publishing on FlatHub, and then I don't know, maybe I should start asking for admission in the GNOME circle, or at the very least moving this application to the world section instead of being inside my namespace. I don't know, maybe I'll poke around. Being inside the GNOME circle is it's kind of nice. You get visibility for your application and stuff. Having more applications here is usually a good idea. Yeah. Oh, the circle nightlies, yeah. Well, it's kind of complicated, I guess. Yeah, I mean, the application. So there is a list of things you can do when applying. You must be on FlatHub. Well, you mustn't be on FlatHub, but FlatHub is heavily recommended. Main dependencies, okay. We already follow the GNOME code of conduct. Yeah. The requirements are here. Good overall quality level. Well, apart from being like beta quality. I'm using an OSI approved license. I don't have a CLA. I use the GNOME platform. It's available as Flatpak. I have an app icon and a description and screenshots. Yes. Well-designed UI. Yeah, maybe. But yeah. After this release, I might poke people to get into the to submit an evaluation whether or not I can get into Circle. I might end up asking for a project move from my personal namespace on GitLab to the world namespace, because this would allow people to translate the application. Yikes, of course. Yeah, aside from that, I think this is a good place to stop for today. So yeah, Friday, it's release day. So I'll merge everything that is outstanding, release Amberol 0.4, and then do release on FlatHub. So it will be available for other people, and then we'll see what happens. I think the UI is improved a lot, to be honest with you. I think the result of a little bit of GNOME design team magic has improved things. So I'm quite happy with it. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's not a complicated application. I'm struggling to think of things to add to this application at this point. So I think I'll just stop for a while and wait for requests or anything like that. Of course, there will be bug fixes, but it's fine. So I think it's time for the usual outro for the YouTube VOD and YouTube crowd. If you want to see me work on GTK, GNOME, libadwaita application code using the GNOME platform, then why not subscribe to my YouTube channel? I upload the VODs of my streams, and if I manage to remember. Otherwise, if you want to see me doing this live, then you can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/abassi, and you will get notified as soon as I start streaming, which usually happens on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. London time. For anybody still around here, thank you very much for sticking around. Thank you very much for listening to me ramble and for asking questions. I'm very happy about it. And yeah. Oh god, I'm building stuff and the stream is struggling. In any case, have a lovely rest of your day and a great Wednesday evening or afternoon. And if anything, I shall see you on Friday for release day. Bye.